everybody, and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer. The Championship is heating up. We're getting to that business end of the season. The table is interchanging with every fixture, as always, in the Championship. And some interesting midweek results, actually. Some surprise shocks. And I think it was a really good midweek set of fixtures. But we can't rest on our laurels. We've got another set of Championship fixture predictions to get into. But guys, before I start, please make sure to hit that like button, and also please do subscribe to the channel if you are new here as well. Fun fact for you, 25% of the midweek games resulted in a red card. I think that does show that the Championship is really hot enough. We're getting to that business end, as I said, of the season. And as I said, let's jump into the 12 fixtures that we have got this weekend. Starting off with Huddersfield versus Sheffield United. Now, Huddersfield drew 0-0 with Preston in midweek. In fact, they had less possession, less shots on target. And I think it's fair to say that Preston looked more likely to win it and were the better team. Sheffield United, on the other hand, there's always a team that comes out of nowhere, isn't there, with these, Championship seasons. And I feel Sheffield United could be that team really turning things around from the start of the season. They've won the last 4 on the bounce. Huddersfield are undefeated, though, in the last 5, but I believe they've had 3 draws thrown in there whilst that's happening. Huddersfield are the home team, but I've got to go with my gut instinct on this one. I'm actually going to go for a 2-1 Sheffield United win. I think they really are one to watch. They're currently 10th in the table, but they could close in on the playoffs. They're really close to the playoff positions now, and they could even push on beyond that. They're looking a really promising threat for the second half of the season. We move on to what I think is going to be a bit of a brawling game, maybe not just between the players on the pitch, but obviously Millwall at home to Cardiff. Millwall and Cardiff not obviously having the best of fortunes in the Championship this season, but Millwall do have an outside chance of the playoffs, it is fair to say, but they have only won 1 of their last 5 games. Cardiff, on the other hand, are further down on the table, but in the last 5, they have won 3 of the last 5, and they're picking up a bit of form. They really are. They're 12 points clear of relegation, but they really would need to have to push on and have a bit of a miracle to make the playoffs now this season. I do think Cardiff win, though. I really do, and I am going to actually predict. I'm going to go a 2-0 win for Cardiff on this one. We move on to Hull versus Fulham. Very different, fortunes. But Hull did lose, 3-1 to Derby in the most recent fixtures. Obviously, Derby are fighting back, aren't they? And Hull, despite a good start to 2022, they've lost the last 2 on the bounce in the league. So really need to push back against that. Fulham, on the other hand, they had a small slip-up with a draw at the weekend. They did rectify that in midweek. They're back on their scoring form. Mitrovic looks like an absolute danger. And I think they're nearly at 80 goals scored this season, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately for the Tigers, I can only see this going one way. And I think I've predicted 3 wins now, all away from home. But I am going to go for a 3-0 win for Fulham. We move on to Reading versus Coventry. Reading, no win in 10 in all competitions. It really is looking quite grim for Reading. The only reason, they've probably had a bit of benefit is, of course, with Derby having their points deducted and the teams below them still having, not very good form at all, meant they are still surviving and not quite in that relegation places yet. They're definitely in the scrap, though, relegation battle. And, of course, they also lost to Kidderminster Harriers on the way in the FA Cup. Coventry, on the other hand, 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw in the last 5 fixtures. It really has been a bit of a mixed bag for them. I do think they're going to win this one, which means it's 4 out of 4 for the away team in this Championship fixtures. And I am going to go for a narrow 1-0 win, I think, for Coventry on this one. We move on to Nottingham Forest and Stoke. Obviously, 2 teams that will be buzzing after their midweek results. Obviously, Stoke ended up getting the win against Swansea. I did say in my last predictions that Stoke needed to win that one to kind of keep their playoffs hopes very much alive, in which they are. Forest are another team that could break through, couldn't they? They're up to 6th now, 2-0 win over Blackburn. And just like Sheffield United, they feel like a team that are really kicking on in the second half of the season. They obviously got that big win against Arsenal, as not just Arsenal. They also got another big win in the FA Cup as well at the weekend. I'm going to back the home team in this one. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Forest win. I think they'll continue that good form. I think Stoke will give up a really good fight, though. And to be honest, this one really could go either way. So if you do disagree, I'm not going to disagree with you too much. Moving on to Peterborough versus Preston North End. And Peterborough, things are looking very grim for them. No wins in the last 5. And to be honest, they're just not scoring enough, are they? Obviously down in the relegation scrap. And they really do need to start scoring, I think, if they are going to survive in the Championship. Preston, on the other hand, no losses in the last 5, but they do have 3 draws. Peterborough are at home, and I think for that reason, I'm going to predict probably a 1-1 draw. Now, this is probably going to go against the grain a bit, but I do feel that maybe Preston are going to get another draw here, and I'm going to go for a 1-1. We move on to Blackpool versus Bournemouth, and it'd be fair to say that Bournemouth now are starting to solidify, or at least attempted to solidify that second place. And to be honest, I really do think they should. I mean, you look at the signings that they brought in the transfer window. Obviously, Nat Phillips they brought in, Kevin Moore from Cardiff. They made that transfer. Todd Cantwell coming into the Championship as well. That team is really good enough to get promoted. And to be honest, both them and Fulham should be the teams, especially with Scott Parker as manager for obviously Bournemouth now to go up. But Blackpool, you know, they're giving a good go of it. They really are. I mean, to be fair to them, look, they're unbeaten in 5. They've had a few draws, but I really do think Bournemouth are going to want a kick on here. I think after especially the January transfer window, they're going to want to solidify and continue to solidify that second place spot. And I am going to go for a 3-1 win to Bournemouth on that one. We move on to Middlesbrough versus Derby County. And what a week for Derby County. Now just 4 points off survival after having 21 points deducted. I think if they hadn't had any points deducted, they would actually be sitting in 15th position now, a bit above Millwall. On the other hand, we obviously have Borough. They got their win against United. They drew with QPR, which was a good draw in midweek, to be fair to them. I think in general, people will be wanting Derby to get a result, I think. I know it's a bit 50-50, isn't it, whether people are against Derby or not at the moment. But I think some are hoping that Derby will get that result and get themselves, you know, in survival. But I am going to go for a Middlesbrough win on this one, especially being at home. I do think they'll get a win. I think it'll be a narrow 2-1 win I'm going to go for on that one. We move on to Birmingham versus Luton Town. Birmingham not having a good time at all. They're definitely shifting too many goals. Birmingham are actually scoring, to be honest. You know, they've been scoring in the majority of the games. They've definitely got the goals in them, but they keep on shifting goals as well. And that's a problem they really need to resolve to end up getting results on points, more importantly, on the board. Luton Town, obviously, they're having a dream season. They're lurking around that playoff position. It'd be one that I think everyone would have their eyes on if they did get into the playoff places. And maybe as a neutral, I imagine they'd gather with a few fans as well. A lot of neutral fans if they did make the playoffs. This one's going to be a tough fixture, though. I do think this could be an interesting one. And again, maybe going slightly against the grain. I think there'll be goals, and I'm going to go for 2-2 in this one. Luton did win in midweek, but they were actually outclassed in terms of possession from Barnsley. And it did take a penalty to get Luton over the line. So I'm going to go 2-2 on this one. We move on to Barnsley, who I've just spoke about, coming up against QPR, and things are looking horrible for Barnsley. I mean, it's getting harder to see a way out of it. I don't think they've had a win in a long time now. I think maybe November you have to go back to for a win in the league. Please do correct me if I got that wrong. QPR, on the other hand, you know, obviously, as I mentioned previously, got a good result against Middlesbrough, a draw in midweek, pushing on that playoffs. They're going to want to keep on moving on towards that. And I could only see this one going one way. It's another away win, but I'm going to go 2-0 to QPR. Moving on to Swansea City versus Bristol City. Now, Swansea City, on my last predictions, I said they needed to get that win against Stoke to be keeping their playoff hopes alive. In fact, both of these teams now, the chances are looking quite slim of getting a playoff position. But the beauty of the Championship is you can never rule it out. If one of these guys do pick up form, do go on a bit of a run, they could still make it. It's not like mathematically they're out of it. You know, a good run of 3 wins or something, you've probably thrown their names back into the mixture. Of course, Bristol City have played a couple more games than most teams, though, and both teams do sit in 16th and 17th in the Championship, so do really need to be kicking on. I'm going to go for a draw, though, on this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. We move on to our last fixture, and that is West Brom versus Blackburn Rovers. Not a great start, was it, for Steve Bruce? Obviously, getting beaten. And Blackburn really need to start picking up their form as well. Let's be honest. At one point, they they're still third, but if people around them have got games in hand on them, then I think that could be their detriment. Obviously, only 1 win in their last 5 as well. Both these teams really now need to be turning things around. In fact, I think West Brom have only won 1 in the last 5. The difference with West Brom is they've had 4 defeats as well. This is going to be a really important fixture. I don't know on this one. I'm going to go for a Blackburn win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Blackburn win, I think. But it could go either way. Guys, let me know. As always, let me know your thoughts on the Championship predictions. Let me know where I've gone right. Maybe also let me know where I've gone wrong. And hopefully you've enjoyed the video. And if you have, and you've made it all this way through and you're not subscribed yet, ask yourself why not. Come on, hit that subscribe button. It is free. And I will be back next Thursday probably for another set of Championship predictions. They're here to stay, so please do support the channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one, hopefully. Goodbye.